Monorail! 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 Hello fans, it's the VC Andrews Critiquer back with another round of Old vs. New. And once again, I'll be joined by another popular YouTuber and an old friend from high school. Please put your hands together for Thomas Murray of Murray Reactions.
Hey guys, glad to be back on the channel. Sorry it's been a while. Hunting Pennywise with you really took a lot out of me.
Hey, no worries, man. I know you have your own expert level reactions to do and stuff, but I'd love to appear in one of those reactions again like I did with the Nostalgia Critic Wonder Woman review.
Love to do that, man, but please no more of that Flyaway song from Hilda.
I am a stinker, aren't I? Alright, I'll stop. That joke's as dead as when David gets decapitated anyway.
A little disturbing, but thanks, man. So, before we start, I just have a quick question for you.
What's that?
Ever met a fella by the name of Hill?
Hill, 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 Hill!
Yes! But maybe our devoted viewers haven't, so why don't we tune them in with a little recap of The Music Man.
First premiering on Broadway in 1957, The Music Man revolves around Harold Hill, a charismatic music teacher in 1912 who goes across America using his charm to convince parents that their impressionable young children are destined to become shameless Frank Gallagher clones unless they sign them up for his wholesome and educational after-school music class, soon to result in the town's first junior marching band. There's just one catch.
He's a fake and he doesn't know the territory.
Yeah, Harold Hill's a con who knows as much about music as the Nostalgia Critic in his Pink Floyd's The Wall review. He overcharges the parents in advance for his music lessons, instruments, and band uniforms, but then hightails it with the dough when the time comes to actually deliver on his offer. And his most recent sucker is a little town in Iowa called River City.
But this town has one thing that none of the other towns had. Someone that he actually starts to care for. Namely, the witty town librarian, Miss Marian Paroo, whose stubbornness really charms the con man's heart. And pretty soon, he not only starts to care for her, but also for his students that he takes under it. And though she does learn his secret, she can't help but keep it for herself.
But soon more trouble starts to brew in River City, at least for Hill, as the mayor's starting to smell BS with Hill's music professor deal, and pretty soon a traveling salesman arrives in town, and he wants vengeance on Hill for damaging the reputation of traveling salesmen in the many towns that he defrauded, hence why his business is in the red. And he's pretty sure the mayor and townsfolk would be pretty interested to learn of Hill's true past. But right when he's starting to turn over a new leaf...
Will Harold Hill pay his debts, or will he scam his way to redemption?
The musical's definitely left its mark on pop culture, even serving as the inspiration for arguably the most famous Simpsons episode ever, Marge vs. the Monorail. Hell, it's even being revived in 2022 with Hugh Jackman starring as Harold Hill. Only time will tell how that'll play out. And being a huge hit on Broadway, it naturally got two movie adaptations. The first one released in 1962, directed by the original stage director Meredith Willson, with Robert Preston reprising his role as Hill from the original 1957 Broadway musical.
The film was quite a success, being the third highest grossing movie of the year, nominated for 6 Academy Awards, and was put into the National Film Registry in 2005.
Then in 2003, Disney, another great master of musicals, decided to take their shot at the classic musical with a TV adaptation released as an episode of The Wonderful World of Disney, directed by Jeff Bleckner, with Matthew Broderick starring as the con man.
The reviews for this one were a lot more mixed, but it still got nominated for 5 Emmys.
But this isn't about what professional critics think or how many awards each one got. What matters in this review is the opinions of Thomas and I, so we're going to take a look at the two films and see which one hits the right notes and which one needs to run out of town with Hill.
So tune out the band, cause this is Old vs. New on The Music Man.
Trouble with a capital T and that rhymes with P and that stands for pool.
Trouble with a capital T and that rhymes with P and that stands for pool.
Now, please keep in mind that the rounds are going to be a bit shorter than usual because both adaptations stay very faithful to the original Broadway musical, so there's a relatively limited amount of things to compare.
But we'll make the most of it. So to kick things off, let's look at the man out of town who started the con, and a good reminder that you should always run a background check on a music teacher before giving them money.
Or a monorail salesman.
Indeed. So keep your wallets under lock and key as we take a look at Best Harold Hill.
Clarinets of every size and trumpeters who'd improvise a full octave higher than the score.
Yeah, 35 years before Lionel Landry was charming people with song and dance to sell faulty monorails, Harold Hill was charming people with song and dance to sell faulty music lessons. Like said before, Hill starts out as a self-centered, manipulative con artist but admittedly a very good one. I mean, it's not everybody that can make a simple pool table out to be a dangerous slippery slope for kids, leading to them growing up to be even worse than Frank Gallagher.
But the main tactic seems to be flattering those who are starting to suspect him by convincing them that compared to them and their natural gift for music, Elton John is Rebecca Black.
It's Friday, gotta get down on Friday.
Stop singing!
But though Marian Paroo, whom Hill had expected to be just yet another gullible female music teacher he pretended to like in order to maintain his image, his heart begins to grow towards her in the town as he slowly starts to develop a conscience.
Like said before, the 62 adaptation had Robert Preston reprise his role as Hill from the original Broadway production, while the TV version starred Matthew Broderick. Now I gotta say, this one was actually not as one-sided as I was expecting. Yeah, I know I had said in my Stepford Wives review that this was probably the most out-of-place casting for Matthew Broderick ever, but we don't think Broderick actually did half bad.
Definitely isn't suave or especially charismatic, at least not anymore. But Broderick's natural enduring awkwardness did help him look more genuine and less conspicuous as a con man.
Please observe me, if you will. I'm Professor Harold Hill, and I'm here to organize the River City Boys Band. Brrr. Did you drop your...
No.
Didn't we meet in...
No.
I will only be in town a short while.
Good.
Well, save for a certain librarian and mayor, of course. But yeah, I gotta admit, I'd never suspect Broderick as a sleazy conman who would play on the heartstrings of parents, so I guess his Hill does work in its own special way. That, we do feel both Harold Hills have very natural character developments, but with that said, it still was not even close. Robert Preston just did so perfectly as Harold Hill, with everything that makes an awesome con artist. He was suave, handsome, charismatic, and sings better than Ariana Grande.
Remember, my friends, what a handful of trumpet players did to the famous, fabled walls of Jericho. Oh, billiard parlor walls come a-tumbling down.
That spread of the little finger. It's hereditary.
It is? What does that mean?
Why, it means that your son's little finger is perfectly situated to operate the spit valve on a B-flat flugelhorn.
Yeah, if this guy pulled a Nigerian prince scam on you, you get him all your life saving and he just promised you $5 for that paying my ransom compensation bullcrap. Broderick's singing is kind of hit or miss, but we'll talk about that a bit later. Preston's Hill almost seems like a bit more of a greater influence.
Right, like compare the finale of both versions of 76 Trombones. In the remake, Hill does still manage to get a decent number of people to follow him, but in the original, he manages to get almost the entire town to follow him out in a parade. Well, save for the mayor, of course. Also look at their marching band costumes. Broderick's looks fine, but also a bit generic. Preston's was flashy, colorful, and delightfully bizarre, again really capturing Hill's flamboyant personality.
And just to reiterate, Broderick was not actually as bad as Hill's you think. He had a good character development and his own special portrayal of the character as a lovable dweeb, which you could argue worked for a manipulative con man like Hill.
Plus, Broderick does still have a little bit of Ferris Bueller left in him, which really does help with the portrayal. But yeah, it's still no contest at all. Robert Preston is definitely the more manipulative and memorable Harold Hill, and probably will be for generations to come.
But I guess only time will tell.
Yeah, I guess so. But for now,
point goes to the old.
Make your blood boil, well, I should say.
Trouble with a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool.
But of course, they say love can tame all evil, and Harold Hill is no exception. Thanks to the town's local librarian, who, despite seeing right through him, is apparently into bad boys. So this is Best Marian Paroo.
Clarinets of every size and trumpeters who'd improvise a full octave higher than the score.
Marian Paroo may be the town librarian, but she's definitely not the traditional quiet and friendly librarian stereotype. I mean, she can be friendly, but only for those who deserve it.
As for womanizing manipulative con artists like Harold Hill, they can get attacked by a drunk and dumped Gallagher for all she cares. Man, you mentioned Shameless so much in your reviews, you got me referencing it now.
Dude, once you see it yourself, you'll be referencing it non-stop in your reactions as well. Besides, it's fitting we reference it frequently here, as you'll soon see a bit later. But she does start to warm up to Hill once she sees how happy he's making all the residents, and Hill conversely starts to fall for her.
Anyway, unlike Harold Hill, this choice was a difficult one because Shirley Jones and Kristen Chenoweth both did a great job as Marian. They both captured her snotty cynicism, but also her kind heart and growing admiration for Harold Hill.
But we ultimately feel Kristen Chenoweth is better for two reasons. One, She's Kristen Chenoweth, one of Broadway's most talented and beloved actresses, so you can really feel her going the extra mile with this performance. Shirley Jones did great too, but she didn't quite seem to have Chenoweth's spunk. Like, let's compare these scenes.
Mr. Hill, I am not as easily mesmerized as some of the people in this town, and I think it only fair to tell you that I am not impressed by your credentials, which I have not seen, nor your manners, which I have.
Another thing, Mr. Hill. I'm not as easily mesmerized or hoodwinked as some people in this town, and I think it only fair to warn you that I have a shelf full of reference books in my library, which may very well give me some interesting information about you.
Well, for the time being, you can just say, "Good night, my someone," and then you can put the name in when the right someone comes along.
For the time being, just say goodnight, my someone. You can put the name in when the right someone comes along.
Plus, the remake devotes a little more focus to her relationship with Hill, how she initially despises the creep with a passion and wants to bring him to justice, but then slowly starts to develop feelings for him thanks to his charm and the happiness he brings to the community. There's definitely time devoted to the original, but not quite as much in the remake, and... Is there anything you got, VC?
Not really. It's kind of like when I compared both versions of Maria and West Side Story. Both actresses did so phenomenally, not to mention are written so similarly, there's hardly anything to compare, but Kristen just barely takes home the gold for having a tad more spunk in her performance than Shirley, as well as more time devoted to her relationship with Hill.
Point goes to the new.
Why, they could be downright lies, now couldn't they?
Pool with a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool.
But of course, any con needs hapless suckers to support his cause that only he benefits from, and of course to bring him to justice.
Dude? Are you sure about that?
Or at least his senses. At any rate, let's take a look at Best Supporting Cast.
Clarinets of every size and trumpeters who'd improvise a full octave higher than the score.
Like Marian, this was another tough choice since the supporting cast in both movies are pretty memorable. Let's start with Marcellus Washburn, Hill's former partner in crime who settled down in River City as a stable keeper. The dude is willing to aid Hill with his scam in any way he can, but is also such an adorable sticky bun, you can't help but like him.
David Aaron Baker does his job as a character in the remake, but the original was played by Buddy Hackett, and, well, considering the character is a lovable oaf...
Gregory! Of all the people to run into in Iowa, Gregory!
You sure cut a swath down at the high school yesterday.
Yeah.
Hey, when you were talking about all them trombones, you look just like you used to back in Joplin.
Yeah, points to Hackett with this one.
What about Marian's mother, Marian Paroo? Both are very lovable and supportive mothers, if also very susceptible to the suasion of shysters like Hill.
But the original 1962 version had a lot more spunk in her, and had everyone's best interests of the Paroo household, like having Winthrop talk to Hill to try to work through his lisp.
Speaking of which, let's talk about Winthrop. Now this is a really tough one. In the original he's played by a frickin' young Ron Howard, but in the remake he's played by a frickin' young Ian Gallagher from Shameless, or more appropriately, his actor Cameron Monaghan.
Ah, so that's why you keep referencing Shameless here.
And because it's the greatest dramedy ever concocted, of course. Anyway, tough call because both were very endearing as the character.
Oh, hold the Wells Fargo wagon, it's a coming now. I don't know how, I can ever wait to see. It could be something for someone who is no relation, but it could be something special. Something very, very special now. Just for me.
True, but as much as we love Ian Gallagher, or at least as much he does.
I do indeed. His future husband Mickey Milkovich is pretty fun too.
Okay, well, hold on, so we don't get any furniture?
No, I'm sorry, but that is very cute. I've never had anyone ask me that before.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we have to give a slight edge to Ron Howard here because he did a bit better at portraying the emotional scenes of the character. Like when Amaryllis laughed at him for mispronouncing her name. He actually runs away crying, whereas Cameron just seemed more embarrassed when he ran off.
Also compare the scene where he lashes at Hill for lying to him and the entire town, and tell us which one you think seemed more hurt.
Can you lead a band?
No.
Are you a big liar?
Yes.
Are you a dirty, rotten crook?
Yes.
Now leave me go, you big liar!
Can you lead a band?
No.
Are you a big liar?
Yes?
Are you a dirty, rotten crook?
Yes!
Let me go, you big liar!
Again, Cameron would become one of the most emotional actors I've ever seen once he started playing Ian Gallagher, but Apparently it came a bit later for him in life than it did for Ron Howard. What about the mayor's wife, played by Hermione Gingold and Molly Shannon?
Again, Molly Shannon does fine in the role, but she's nowhere near as snobbish as Hermione Gingold.
Is this the sort of book you give my daughter to read? This ruby hat of Omar I am appalled. It's a smutty book. Like most of the others you keep here, I dare say.
Yeah, point to Gingold, definitely. We do feel the mayor's daughter Susan and her lovable delinquent boyfriend Tommy have slightly bigger roles in the remake, so New will take that point. And as for the minor characters like Amaryllis, the School Board Barbershop Quartet, or the Busybody Ladies, I'd say a tie. Can't think of any major ways either outshine the other. Can you, Murray?
No, not really. They're more or less equally entertaining in both films.
Now you might be wondering about the tight-ass Mayor Shin and the bitter rival salesman Charlie, and actually we're going to give them their separate category as the villains of the story.
But what really sold it to us was during the lead up to the Iowa Stubborn song, where in the remake it only took one person to start singing the song, while the townspeople in the original only gave a few word answers which threw Hill off his game for a bit before moving on.
So at the end of the day, the supporting cast in the original ultimately hits the Morning Sun stronger with those 76 trombones.
Wait, what?
Couldn't think of a better wrap-up line for the round.
Point goes to the old.
Only it's a well-known principle that if you keep the flint in one drawer and the steel in another, you'll never strike much of a fire.
Trouble with a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool.
When it comes to the world of a traveling salesman, there are two things you have to be wary of.
Taxes and inflation?
Nah, it's the rivals and the ones that try to expose the scam. So let's see who gave Hill the most trouble. This is Best Villains.
Clarinets of every size and trumpeters who'd improvise a full octave higher than the score.
Like in West Side Story, it's kind of debatable how much the villains are, well, villains. I mean, they never do anything illegal, and they do have the right to have beef with Hill, as we'll soon discuss.
But again, they are still the main antagonists of the story, and they're such condescending assholes about the whole thing, it's really hard to sympathize with them. So far as BC and I are concerned, they're the villains of the story.
Yep. Anyway, in The Music Man, there are two main antagonists. The stuck-up mayor of River City, George Shin, and the rival salesman, Charlie Coble, who got ran out of his last town due to Hill and wants vengeance.
We felt Mayor Shin had the bigger role in the story, so let's start with him.
Mayor Shin is one of the few residents of River City besides Marian who isn't swayed by Hill's charm and suspects him of foul play. But again, he's such a belittling upper-class jackass that our sympathy remains with Hill.
Yeah, but we digress. Which one is truly better?
Well, I gotta admit, when I first heard Victor Garber play this character in the remake, I was a tad skeptical. Garber's a phenomenal actor, don't get me wrong, but the characters he plays are usually so sweet and likable, so I wasn't too convinced he could pull off the rich asshole in power role.
But Mr. Garber actually managed to avert expectations and almost gave Mr. Malefic from Shameless a run for his money.
Well, it's actually pronounced Milkovich, Thomas, but yeah, definitely. Take a look for yourself.
You watch your phraseology. I know what you was doing, my little Gracie Senior. Now, you stay away from my oldest girl, or you'll hear from me till who laid the rails.
You'll be down at City Hall with your bygone papers at 3 o'clock.
You mean this afternoon?
I couldn't make myself any plainer if I was a Quaker on his day off.
Paul Ford's take on the character in the original is a bit different. Where Garber focuses more on the abrasiveness of the character, Ford focuses more on the self-righteous pompousness, and make no mistake, he's still very entertaining to watch.
And the school board is singing up street and down alley instead of tending to city matters. The sword of retribution has cut down Professor Harold Hill.
But given the mayor is an antagonist in the story, we feel Garber's more hard-ass portrayal serves the story better.
Yep, so point will go to Victor Garber. What about the rival salesman?
Ah yes, Charlie the Anvil salesman. He has a personal grudge against Hill for ruining the reputation of traveling salesmen everywhere with his swindling, thus hurting his own business.
Both Harry Hickox and Patrick McKenna really gave it their all, but Patrick seemed to despise Hill as much as Frank Gallagher's kids hate him.
I'll catch up with that swindling two-bit thimble rigger, and when I do, I'm gonna squeal on him so loud.
Pardon?
Dude, are you trying to subliminally manipulate the viewers into loving Shameless by your constant references to it?
No, of course not. Yeah, so what if I am? It's really that good.
Well, I can't argue since I haven't seen the show, but back to Charlie. The remake does give him a more valid reason to hate Hill. I mean, in the original, the town he tried to do business with just runs him out of town and tells him to piss off. In the remake, he actually gets frickin' tarred and feathered by the town.
Jeez, Hill must have depleted that town worse than Lyle Lanley did North Haverbrook.
Who knows? But while this does give him more of a motive, McKenna seems to have a bit more of a natural smug sliminess to him. I mean, look at this guy.
That fella's been the raspberry seed in my wisdom tooth just long enough. He spoiled Illinois for me, he's not gonna spoil Iowa. You gullible green grass goats. Can't you get it through your head that you're being swindled out of your eye teeth right now?
So, this ultimately keeps him from being too sympathetic.
Again, Hickox did well too.
Music, Professor. Not on your fireless cooker, mister.
Fellow that organized the band?
There ain't any band. There ain't never been a band. There ain't never gonna be a band.
But he never felt quite as despicable as McKenna, so while we still root for Hill, we felt a bit more sorry for Charlie than we should have.
Again, the villains in both movies are pretty good, but the original ones don't seem quite as despicable, so we found ourselves empathizing for them more, given Hill was a con artist who was trying to swindle an entire town.
By making the mayor more of a tight ass and Charlie more of a jerk ass, this kept us from getting to invest in them and made us still want to see Hill and Marian get together and lead a marching band.
Point goes to the new.
You watch your phraseology!
Pool with a capital T and that rhymes with P and that stands for pool.
It takes more than great actors to set up a great musical. You'll need some bopping tunes as well.
Monorail, monorail, monorail.
Dude, not the parodies.
Sorry, they're just so damn catchy.
No worries. Anyway, since the stories are so similar in both versions, we're just going to be focusing on the music. So, without any further ado, this is Best Music for the win.
Clarinets of every size and trumpeters who'd improvise a full octave higher than the score.
While the songs in this musical are far from the most famous on Broadway, they are still some damn good showstoppers. The Wells Fargo Wagon, Rock Island Line, Iowa Stubborn, and of course...
The capital T and that rhymes with P and that stands for pool.
They sure are. And both films have really friggin' good renditions of these classics. The choreography, the orchestration, the singing, you can really tell they set a really high standard in the audition process.
But we think we're gonna give a slight edge to the original. As majestic as the orchestration is in both movies, the original just sounds a tad better.
I snarl, I hiss. How can ignorance be compared to bliss? I spark, I fizz.
I snarl, I hiss. How can ignorance be compared to bliss? I spark, I fizz.
See what we mean? They're both great, but the original just sounds a bit more grander. Plus, you could sense the actors are really having fun with the dancing in the original. You can feel them trying to add a sense of silliness to their dancing that the new movie didn't seem to have. At least not particularly. Take a look at the Rock Island song, for instance.
In the original, you could really hear the actors trying to match the exact rhythm of the train rolling on the tracks.
Gone with the hogshead, cask, and demijohn. Gone with the sugar barrel, pickle barrel, milk can. Gone with the tub and the pail and the tears.
In the remake, it didn't quite feel like they had the same dedication to emulating the train sounds.
Doesn't know the territory.
What's the fella's line?
Never worries about his line.
Never worries about his line.
Or the Cracker Barrel bean obsolete, or the you need a biscuit in an airtight sanitary package.
Plus, the music they add in the background is kind of distracting. It takes away from the uniqueness of the song being in tune with the moving train.
Now, we will say that some of the songs in the 2003 version, like Iowa Stubborn or the Wells Fargo Wagon, do feature a wider range of locations than the 62 film. Kudos for diversification.
And of course, there's the big issues with the remake score. Matthew Broderick's singing. Again, Broderick isn't actually a bad singer. We actually heard him sing incredibly in films like The Lion King.
He actually had a singing double in that movie.
Oh, at least he sang well in The Producers.
Yes, he did. But here he seemed to succumb to a problem that seemed frequent to Broderick in his post-1998 career: lack of passion. Sometimes he has acceptable passion, like in 76 Trombones or Madam Librarian.
But in others like Y'all Got Trouble, let's listen to them back to back.
You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pockets in a table. Pockets that mark the difference between a gentleman and a bum.
You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pockets in a table. Pockets that mark the difference between a gentleman and a bum.
Now I know all you folks are the right kind of parents. I'm gonna be perfectly frank.
Now I know all you folks are the right kind of parents. I'm gonna be perfectly frank.
Personally, I do think Broderick's a better actor than he's given credit for. Except when he's not, and here, he's mostly not, at least with his singing.
Again, the musical numbers in both films are pretty high quality for the most part, but the remake just didn't seem to have that extra dedication the original had, in both music and vocal performance.
Nope, the actors and their singing helped put the original on the map, and thus it will continue to be the better of the two movies. Point and victory goes to the old.
gullible green grass goats.
Trouble with a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool.
And that's all Murray and I got. Man, rewatching these movies has really made me want to check out the Hugh Jackman version. Hope it comes to Richardson, Texas sometime. But of course, there's only one song in the whole world that's even better than all the songs in this musical combined.
Hey, you promised you cut that out.
Calm down, it's not that song, I promise.
Thank God. Well, what is it then?
Take a lot of luck you got. Know that it's not for now.